Welcome to the Mental Militia, uniting minds and freeing souls from the bonds of mental slavery and ruling class manipulation.
Well, good morning, folks. This is Gary Mack, and you're watching the Mental Militia. Today, I'm going to talk about the most important thing that I could think of, and that is how to study, learning how to learn and learning how to study. There's many topics that I want to talk about on this show. Here's a few books that I would like to, talk about, and concepts that I would like to have other people understand so that we're all on the same page when we're talking about freedom and truth and honesty. So, but there's a problem with that. And the main problem is most people don't know how to study. They don't know how to learn how to learn. They're not really taught that in school. They're just taught to regurgitate information and to just be a manageable slave. Just do your job and that's it. It's really more of an indoctrination camp than anything these days. Here's a book I want to talk about today. I want to go over the basic study manual. Most people haven't been taught how to learn. They've just been taught to memorize and spit stuff out and to believe what they're told. So in order for us to understand these concepts, the concept is king, and if you don't understand the word, that's the key. The key to the concept is understanding what you're reading. So we're going to go over this. I'm going to move these out of the way. These books here. Great books, by the way. And anyway, so, all right. Let's see. Okay, so, and it's a book, it's based on the works of L. Ron Hubbard. And here's an important note. If you don't understand what the words are, you're going to get confused. So, this is an important note on reading any book, that you should understand this important note. In reading this book, or any book, be very certain you never go past a word you do not fully understand. The only reason a person gives up a study or becomes confused or unable to learn is because he or she has gone past a word which was not understood. The confusion or inability to grasp or learn comes after a word that the person did not have defined and understood. Have you ever had the experience of coming to the end of a page and realizing you didn't know what you had read? Well, somewhere earlier on that page you went past a word that you had no definition for or incorrect definition for. Here's an example. It was found that when the crepuscule arrived, the children were quieter, and when it was not present, they were much livelier. You see what happens? You think you don't understand the whole idea, but the inability to understand came entirely from the one word you could not define, crepuscule, which means twilight or darkness. It may not only be the unusual words that you will have to look up. Some commonly used words can often be misdefined and so cause confusion. This datum about not going past an undefined word is the most important fact in the whole subject of study. Every subject you have taken up and abandoned had its words which you failed to get defined. Therefore, in studying this book, be very, very certain you never go past a word you do not fully understand. If the material becomes confusing or you can't seem to grasp it, there will be a word just earlier that you have not understood. Don't go any further, but go back to before you got into trouble. Find the misunderstood word and get it defined. Definitions. As an aid to the reader, words most likely to be misunderstood have been defined in footnotes the first time they occur in the text. Words sometimes have several meanings. The footnote definitions in this book only give the meaning that the word has as it is used in the text. Other definitions for the word can be found in a dictionary. A glossary, including all the footnote definitions, that is at the back of this book. This glossary is not meant as a substitute for a dictionary. All right, here's the contents. 1, why study? 2, the barriers to study. 3, understanding words. 4, dictionaries. 5, demonstration. 6, word clearing. 7, coaches and checkouts. 8, learning how to learn. 9, summary. And then, other stuff. All right, so I guess today we'll try to cover chapter 1. Best day ever is the day you don't have a misunderstood word. And that's what we need is understanding, folks. That's what's going to create peace on earth, man. Understanding each other, understanding what's going on, understanding the conditions of this planet and what's going on here. All right. Oh, I got the frame. I can frame that up there in the preview. Get it perfectly squared up. Nice. I like those little lines I got there. Okay, so let's go back to the book. All right. All right, chapter 1. Why study? Well, so you're not a dumbass, probably. In his dictionary of 1828, Noah Webster said that to study means to apply the mind to read and examine for the purpose of learning and understanding. Why does one study? Until you clarify that, you cannot make an intelligent activity of it. Some students go through a course and wind up at the other end of it unable to do anything with it. In actual fact, this is because they studied the course just so they could pass the examination. They did not study the course in order to apply the data in it. This is why such people fail in practice after they graduate. This girl says she's trying to study French. She says, "Boy, if I can just get through my exams." Okay, Dr. Fritzdorf says that you take a dummy test and practice on it so you feel comfortable when you take the final exam. Tomorrow's the big day. All right, we've been at this for 6 hours. Let's just fall asleep. And there they are taking the test. They're all frowning and stuff. She got an A, she got an A. They memorized it, but they don't know shit. I studied French for 3 years, but I don't remember a word of it. She's in France trying to talk to somebody. All right. Instead of thinking, is this going to be on the exam? One would do much better to ask himself, how can I apply this material? Or how can I really use this? With that in mind, a person would get much more out of what he studied and would be able to put what he studied to actual use. Beginning French, she's going, how can I really use this? They both got an A. And then, you speak well. You speak French well. Where did you learn it? All right, so here's a drill. Write down an example of a time you studied something with no intention of using the data you were studying. 2, write down how you did on that subject. How much of it do you remember? 3, write down an example of something you studied for the purpose of using the data. 4, compare the knowledge of these 2 subjects and write down your conclusions. Okay, so we'll just finish this chapter, and then tomorrow I'll go over chapter 2. But for now, I'm just going to continue with chapter 1. Okay, the first obstacle to learning. The first obstacle to learning is the idea that one knows it all already. A student who thinks he knows all there is to know about a subject will not be able to learn anything in it. Such a person doesn't even know that he doesn't know. If you asked him if he was willing to learn about it, he would try to avoid your question. He isn't willing to learn about it because he has the false idea that he knows all about it already. An example. I once took a correspondence course in photography thinking that I might learn a few more tricks in the subject. I had been a rather successful photographer, having sold many of my photographs to magazines, and some of my work has even been published in geography books. However, once I started the course, I only got as far as the third lesson when I found myself bogging. Now, bogging means being stuck and unable to make progress. Later, I took another look at this correspondence course I was taking and realizing that this same course contained the real basics and fundamentals of the subject of photography that I didn't even know existed in it. I saw that I didn't know even the first fundamental of why photographs were taken in the first place. It dawned on me that I had been very arrogant. And arrogant is proud and overbearing, forcing others to one's own will through an exaggerated feeling of one's superiority. It dawned on me that I had been very arrogant and that I really didn't know all there was to know on the subject of photography and that there was something there to learn. Once I could see this, I buckled down. Buckled down means set to work with real effort. Once I could see this, I buckled down and started to study the course for real. I then finished the next 8 lessons in 2 weeks of part-time study and gained a workable understanding of the subject for the first time. Workable means able to be worked or used and acted upon successfully. All the knowledge and understanding I had learned from the course would have been denied me if I had not overcome the first obstacle to learning, which is you knew it all already. On the subject of learning itself, the first datum to learn and the first obstacle to overcome is, why are you studying if you know all about it to begin with? If a student can decide that he does not already know everything about a subject and can say to himself, here is something to learn, let's study it, he can overcome this obstacle and be able to learn it. This is a very, very important datum for any student to learn. If he knows this and applies it, the gateway to knowledge is wide open to him. See, there's a couple girls going to typing class. The first one's thinking, I really hope I learn to type fast in this class. The second one's thinking, I type well enough already. I'm only taking this class because it's a requirement. The first one, she wants to learn how to type. So she goes, this is great, I'm really getting faster. Another lady's going, I can always pay someone to type for me, term papers for me. She's getting all frustrated. All right, here's the drill, the last drill. Drill 1, write down a description of someone you have seen or known who felt that he already knew all about some subject. How would this attitude affect the person's ability to learn something new about that subject? 2, write down an example of a subject that you don't already know everything about. 3, write down an example of a subject that you feel you could learn something more about. All right, so Mark, I hope you get a chance to see this and it alleviates some of your frustration with your students and teaching them natural law and how to become the true mediators.